Welcome back, my kings. Thank you so much for the support. And a few queens that have signed up, thank you for the love. Today we have Dr. Umar Johnson. He has some interesting comments, to say the least, about Kamala Harris, and we're going to deep dive in some of his statements in just one moment. So, as you well know, my thoughts about Dr. Umar Johnson, he's one of the biggest female panderers out here, in my opinion. So when I came across this interview that he did when he was speaking about Kamala Harris, I must admit I was actually shocked, because normally, women can do absolutely no wrong, especially black women. But I guess once you hear some of the comments that he going to be speaking about, it may make sense why he feel the way that he feel. So let's get right into that.
Speaking of Kamala, right, how do you feel about her? Because I know you made a comment earlier saying that she don't claim her black side.
House nigga. Just like Barack Obama, they do what they need to do to stay close to the white power structure. She made a career locking up black people. This is the same woman who went on international television, Art, let me remind you, about a year or two ago and said America is not a racist country.
Woo! That's a pretty bold statement, that she's a house Negro, his words not mine, and that she went on national television to say America is not racist. Well, I did some fact checking, so you guys don't have to see was I able to find any clip, any article that support this claim, and I found something here, and you guys be the judge of his claim of her stating that America isn't racist.
Well, first of all, no, I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak truth about the history of racism in our country and its existence today. And I applaud the president for always having the ability and the courage, frankly, to speak the truth about it.
So it looked like Dr. Umar was factual about his assessment. Just for those that's in the back that did not hear, again, Dr. Umar stated that Kamala Harris, went on national television and said that United States isn't racist, and this was her response to that question.
Well, first of all, no, I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak truth about the history of racism in our country and its existence today. And I applaud the president for always having the ability and the courage, frankly, to speak the truth about it.
If you ask the vast majority of black people, probably won't have that same sentiment. But let's continue.
You want me to go vote for a so-called black woman who went on international television and told the world that America is not a racist country? She spit in the face of the family of Trayvon Martin. She spit in the face of the family of Breonna Taylor. She spit in the face of the family of Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Amir Locke, Dante. We can go on and on. Tamir Rice, all the Africans murdered by police.
Yeah, I assure you, if you go and ask those families, do we have a racist problem of how they have been dealt with in the judicial system, I'm sure that their response would be totally different than Kamala Harris. Let's continue.
Which are state-sanctioned executions. Let's be clear. The police are agents of the state. When the police kills a black person, that is a state-sponsored execution. And in response to all this racism, the execution of George Floyd, this part-time black woman says America is not racist. And when I say part-time, Art, I'm not poking fun at her because she's being mixed race. I want to be clear. I'm poking fun at her because she can rarely be found speaking up for black people.
This can't be true.
My issue ain't her being mixed race. Nobody's responsible for how they come into this world. My issue with her is not identifying with her people.
Let me stop it right there. Basically, what he's saying is she not like us. She don't identify with black people until it's a opportune time. Let's do another fact check and see, can we find anywhere where it may give us some glimpse of what she does identify with. Let's go ahead and check this out.
In her book, Harris says, "There is no title or honor on earth I'll treasure more than to say I am Shamla Gopalan Harris's daughter." Harris's visits to India with her mother kept her connected to her roots. Her grandfather, who had strong views on humanitarian issues, worked closely with officials to reallocate refugees. Their conversations had a strong influence on her.
Those walks along the beach in India really planted something in my mind and created a commitment in me before I even realized it that has led me to where I am today.
Harris's maternal uncle, Gopalan Balachandran, who lives in Delhi, tells us how the senator turns to her Amma, which means mother in Tamil, for guidance even after her death.
I don't have to tell her, make your mother proud. She said, what are you telling me? Everything that I do, I ask myself, would Amma approve of this?
Kamla in Hindi means lotus flower and is an important symbol in Indian culture, rooted deep in the bottom of the river. Very similar to Harris's Indian identity, which she wears on her sleeve.
Her Indian identity that she wears on her sleeve when she's speaking about going back, walking with her mom in India. First of all, there's nothing wrong with her embracing that heritage of her, because her mama is Indian. Because, you know, black folks like to say, ain't your mama black? When we start having these conversations about Kamala, so she identifies as an Indian because her mother is Indian. That makes sense. So that's who she identifies with. She doesn't identify as being black. She identifies more of her Indian heritage. Again, not my words. It's in her book, documentary that they did. So it appears so far, Dr. Umar is 2 for 2. Let's keep it going.
I remember another interview I saw with Kamala Harris, Art, and she said, somebody asked her, what are y'all going to do for black people? And she said, we can't pass laws just for black people.
That can't be true.
She said this, we can't do things just for black.
Okay, that's another strong statement. Look like, hey, Dr. Umar, he cooking. Of course, again, I did some research, so you guys didn't have to. I did find a clip of this interview that he's speaking of. Let's actually see what she said.
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen.
Before I continue, have y'all seen, we've been listening, it's been a minute and 30 seconds. She still hadn't answered the question. Don't y'all hate when you ask somebody a question and they giving you basically a soup full of words that have no meaning, she asked a direct question. Do you believe that black people should get reparations? And so far in the minute and 30 seconds, she still has not answered this young lady question. Go ahead and let her finish.
The reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
Yeah. Did you hear what she said? Look like Dr. Umar. Oh, that boy is on fire. She said, no, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm going to do something just for black people. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit so you can hear it again. Let me just go back just a little bit so you can hear it again. This is out her own mouth. So no one can come back and say, hey, we're making up something. This is strictly from her own mouth.
Really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole. And
So, look like Dr. Umar was correct. Hey, he's on fire, man. Let's go ahead and let Dr. Umar finish, because he cooking.
Oh, Kamala Harris, can I ask you a question, Madam Vice President? If the Democratic Party can't do anything just for black people, why did y'all pass a law only for Asians? Why did y'all pass a law only for Native Americans? Why did y'all pass a law only for transgenders? Why did y'all pass a law only for LGBTQs? Why did y'all pass a law only for immigrants? If you can't do anything just for black people, this is what she said. It came out of her mouth. If you can't do anything just for black people, how was it possible for you and President Biden to do all these other things for specific ethnic groups in this country from whose benefit no other group can take anything from? Complete contradiction. Kamala Harris is not for black people.
Normally, I don't agree with a lot of things that Dr. Umar says. I'm just presenting the facts. This is not a political channel. So whoever your political preferences is to each American to be able to do. I don't identify with Republican or Democrat, but that's nor here nor there. I'll just present it as I see it. What is real interesting that I've noticed with the conversation regarding Kamala Harris is it's either we're doing identity politics where someone of color, somebody black, should vote for her just because she's a woman or because she's black, even though her mother is Indian and her dad is Hindu and Irish. But there's no here nor there. I know sometimes facts can get in the way of feelings. So, okay. Or if you're a free thinker, you'll be identified as being a coon, or you not for the culture, or how dare you not wanting to vote for Kamala because aren't you black? Ain't your mama black? It's just insane how we can sit up here and let this instance where she had her first rally in Georgia and she brought on display of just total disrespect. Like all black people wants to identify with this with Megan. Hey, I'm all for the twerking when it's appropriate, but why it feel like you got to always do that jucking and jiving when it comes to us black people? Like we're not smart enough to be able to understand policies. When they speak to other communities, white, Asian, Indian, so on and so forth, but she's not gonna do all that jucking and jiving and have somebody out here gyrating like that's all we want to do, just see somebody up there cooning it up. Hey, we want to hear some policies as well. We want to hear your plan, what you have that's going to be maybe the same as Biden or going to be different. So why we should want to vote for you versus Trump or anybody else but Trump for this instance. That was just very disheartening. I could not believe what I was seeing when I saw that horrible display at her rally. Like, this is what you think about black people? You think that all of us want to see this? And I know people gonna say, well, the Republican convention also had, you know, entertainers, but it was nothing to this magnitude. I mean, that was just outright disrespect. That's the most that she thought of us as black people, that we just want to see somebody up there that's twerking. That is plenty of artists that I'm sure that she could have tapped to perform without giving us that. The argument is, well, she's better than Trump, even though, of course, we've lived through Trump being the president. And again, so I'm not going to give my opinion one way or another. I'm just here to give you guys the facts. So you guys, you tell me, do you think that Dr. Umar Johnson was out of line, or do you actually agree with some of the fact findings that I was able to find of the things that he was saying about Kamala Harris, the reason why he feel the way that he feel about her, that, hey, she's not really for us. She's not really for black people. Hey, she's only being black out of convenience and not because that's what she naturally identifies with, because clearly we already have seen that she identifies with being an Indian, or her Indian heritage, excuse me. It's very fascinating, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Again, kings need thrones. Until next time, peace.